Unmute. Hey, I unmuted. And start video. There we go. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is the AU Student Showcase from the Center for Environmental Filmmaking. I'm Maggie Burnette Stogner, Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Filmmaking at American University in Washington, D.C. And with me here today are some of the center's wildlife and environmental graduate students whose films are in the festival. I'm so proud of them and excited to be doing this showcase. I just want to say also a shout out to my students of my producing environmental and wildlife films who are attending this program tonight. And many thanks to the amazing Environmental Film Festival in the nation's capital and the whole team that are putting this together and all they do to support the work of emerging filmmakers. Also to AU's School of Communication and to Matt Zaklecki, our events manager, and his team. We could not do this without them, and especially Matt. I just will say that we have 4 films to showcase tonight. So I'm going to introduce each film as we get to it and the students who worked on it, and then I'll ask them a few questions, and then we'll save some time at the end to open the questions from the audience. And we have quite a group with us tonight, so I know the hour is going to go very fast. So we're going to just dive right in. Again, 4 films. I'll just say the 4 films are 50 Years of Earth Day, The Waters That Heal Us, The Mammoth Cave Biosphere Region, and After the Storm, Pollution in the Potomac. So we're going to start with 50 Days of Earth Day. It was produced by Beth, Ebisch, Grace Eggleston, and Nydes in a film that features the legendary climate visionary Rachel Carson, someone I remember well from way back. She just had such an influence on the environmental movement with her book, Silent Spring. It also highlights Senator Gaylord Nelson and other voices that influenced the creation of Earth Day from the 1960s to today. The film was produced in the advanced documentary production class of our Film and Media Arts program, which during this particular class was taught by Professor Larry Engel. So let's start with Grace. How did this film come about? And if Grace and Beth and Leah want to all put their cameras on, that would be great.
Beth, did you want to take this question?
How the film came about?
Yes. Okay, go for it, Beth.
Sure. So this film originally came about actually because last year was the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. I don't know if a lot of people know, but our professor, Larry Engel, actually asked Leah and Grace to take on the film to represent the Center for Environmental Filmmaking and to help celebrate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And it ended up being a lot of work. And so they asked me to join the team, which was really exciting. And yeah, we got it done in time for the anniversary.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I mean, the 50-year anniversary of Earth Day is such a significant milestone. And I should say that Professor Larry Engel is an associate director, longtime associate director of the Center for Environmental Filmmaking. And this was a film that we felt was very important to try to pull together in time. And you all did an amazing job pulling this film together very, very quickly. What were some of the challenges? Maybe Grace, you could start with that. What was to you the biggest challenge in creating this film?
Yeah, well, halfway through production, COVID hit. So we totally changed our plan, and we changed, like, we were making a film before kind of about Airlie Farm, and it's owned by AU. So it was kind of like rooted in one place. And we hadn't filmed most of that yet. And then everything went online. So it became like a largely archival film. And yeah, we just kind of had to run with what was happening like everybody did. So that was definitely a challenge.
Truly a typical documentary story, right?
Yeah.
We ended up having to pivot really quickly. You were making this film spring semester last year. So really that hit us right in the early March, and we all had to pivot, including this festival. Leah, maybe you could talk a little bit about what your role in the film was and how you felt this project contributed to your filmmaking skills.
Yeah. So I felt, well, we really lucked out in the fact that we were able to get some in-person interviews and some in-person locations. And so I kind of helped set up the interviews with the Earth Day Network people. And we also got to go to Rachel Carson's historical house. And I think it's outside Silver Spring. And so I felt really lucky that we were able to go to those places before everything shut down. And then working with Grace and Beth was incredible and an awesome experience. And I felt like we were really co-directors. We all, once the pandemic hit, we all had to go virtually, but we kind of just kept working together really well. And I think that the biggest learning experience from it was just how to do that much research. It was a big archival film, and I'd never worked with that much archive, so I learned about a lot about fair use and how to do a lot of research and find all that archive.
Yeah, and it's a very different style of producing to do an archive-based film versus an original production film. Beth, you're working now on a fellowship for the National Park Service that involves Glacier Bay and Indigenous tribe in that area. And again, we're hampered by the pandemic. You're not going to film there, flying to Alaska, right? So you too are dealing with a lot of footage that was already shot, and how is, describe that a little bit. What did you learn from this project that may have contributed to this current project?
Yeah, so this project, the Earth Day project, was really helpful in kind of learning how to communicate virtually. I feel like that's a skill that I had kind of underestimated before the pandemic, but working with the National Park Service, we're working with the headquarters in Harpers Ferry, as well as the National Park Office in Glacier Bay, and with many of the elders in the Hoona Tlingit tribe. And so we've got to have the opportunity to do a lot of Zoom meetings with them, and it's really collaborative, which is really important, obviously, for representation and to make sure that we're providing the tribe the kind of videos that they are looking for, and that we're representing them the way that they are hoping to present themselves through the National Park website and social media. So getting to figure out how to be super communicative via email and Zoom and just phone calls, it's been a huge help, and it's really cool how we're able to connect so far away.
Yeah, congratulations. I mean, that really makes a big difference, and that's a skill that we all need to have now to make films, right?
Yeah.
Grace, you did the larger part of the editing on this film, right?
Yeah, I think the three of us worked pretty evenly on the edit for this, which was really cool, I think. Yeah, like Leah said, we all worked well together on it and
Yeah.
contributed to the edit, so.
And that's a difficult process when you have a team edit. Any words of advice you would give to anybody who's trying to do a similar kind of team approach?
Ooh. I think definitely just be open to what the other people are, their ideas, and because I just think it'll be stronger if you listen to what other people are saying and try to incorporate each other's ideas.
So aside from this festival, is there someplace we can see the film?
It is also playing at the American Conservation Film Festival soon. Yeah.
And then I think we'll have it on, if it isn't already, on our Center for Environmental Filmmaking website, which is just www.environmentalfilm.org. And I want to congratulate you all on this really important film. I hope that next April, I don't think it's going to happen this April, but next April, one of these Earth Days, we're going to be able to actually show this film live at Airlie and celebrate again. So thank you all, and really congratulations on an outstanding film. And next we're going to go to Grace, The Waters That Heal Us. This was an amazing film that Grace made, following the story of veterans who attend therapeutic fly fishing retreats through a project called Project Healing Waters. And I want to just ask Grace to keep her camera on there. And first, tell us a little bit more about this project And how did you find out about Project Healing Waters, and also what kind of drew you to this project?
Yeah, so I was interested in making a film that was kind of a wildlife topic. And so I reached out to Trout Unlimited, the DC chapter. And the guy I talked to there said, like, hey, we have this organization that we sponsor called Project Healing Waters, and they have this new chapter in DC, and there's hundreds of them around the country. So, but it was kind of a bigger deal that it was new in DC, and he was like, maybe there's something there. And I looked them up online, and I was like, yeah, this is an obvious film topic, because it was social and environmental, like, together. And so I think that's what drew me to it.
And what if you had to describe the challenges that you kind of face, the kind of the personal challenges maybe, but also the technical challenges? I mean, this was, you turned this around. I believe you shot this in one day.
Yeah.
How did you possibly manage that?
So the interviews were different days, but everything else that was shown, all of the fishing, was just one afternoon. And Nick went with me. He can pop his camera on and contribute too if he wants, but he contributed to the film a lot. But yeah, so just kind of by nature of having to shoot something start to finish and edit it all in a semester, by the time we solidified filming plans with the group, they only had one outing left for the semester. So they got on a bus and went out to the Shenandoah Valley for this fishing afternoon. And it was definitely a challenge to shoot all in one afternoon, just because, I kind of had ideas in my head of like getting active scenes, like people catching fish and maybe almost catching a fish and then missing it, and all these things that you kind of imagine before you shoot something. And then the entire afternoon we were there, only one person caught one fish the whole time. So it kind of inherently like changed the edit and made it more of a like meditative film about being outside and like hanging out together and leaving the city, which is kind of pretty in line with what the organization is about from what I gather. So, and I didn't know what they were yet before filming. Nick, do you have anything to add?
No, I just wanted to say it was really fun trying to get all that done in a day. We were running around, Grace and I are both camera people, going off of each other, just being like, oh, you go get that. And she was the director, of course, so she was telling me what to do, but she'd be like, get in the water, and I'd be like, oh, I got to get the drone up. So it was frantic but cool, and we worked together several times before, probably more than several times before. So we had like a cinematic language to go off of, so it went really well.
That's great. I always think one of the best parts of film school is the opportunity to work with each other, get to know each other. You bond every time you go on any shoot, right?
Yeah.
And you're really bonded for life. And but that ability to really grow together as filmmakers, I think there's just something really amazing about that process, and starting to understand not just the film language, but each other's film language in aesthetic and sensibilities. And, all of the students that are in this showcase tonight have worked together and done amazing work together. I just am so impressed with that ability to really, every project learn from each other and influencing each other and inspire each other. Were there any, so that film was made and is being used by Project Healing and Waters. And so were there any challenges, or I don't even want to say challenges, but just learning curve with working with a client?
Not really. It was all pretty smooth. Yeah, they really appreciated the film once we got it out there, and they've used it a lot on social media. And it also got to be shown at the Wild and Scenic Festival out in California online in January. And I think Trout Unlimited sponsors that festival. So it's kind of all connected, and yeah, it was pretty smooth.
Yeah. Do you think you might go forward and build out a longer film or some other film?
Honestly, I mean, yeah, I'd love to eventually. We didn't have that much shooting time with them, so
Yeah.
cool.
An afternoon's pretty limited.
Yeah, pretty limited.
You know, you've got a really good second, cinematographer right here with you, with Nick.
Yes.
I hope you will. I hope you will. But congratulations on this film. And I really, again, really, my hat's off to you.
Thank you.
Be able to pull that off in such a short amount of time is just amazing. So
Thanks.
congrats. Okay, and now for our third film, we're going to come to the Mammoth Cave Biosphere region, which was produced and directed by Nydes, who we saw earlier with the Earth Day film. This is a film that was created in one of many partnerships now we have with different branches of the National Park Service. This is a new fellowship for us with the Biosphere group. We also have fellowships with the Science History group. We've had multiple fellowships with them now, as well as the Urban Ecology group, and then the Harper's Ferry Interpretive Center. In fact, Sarah Gulick, shout out to her, is a former student who now is on staff there, and she and Chuck Dunkerley have just been amazing in supporting fellowships for the students in our program. This one was touchy because it was during COVID. It was created to highlight this biosphere region in Kentucky. And Leah, if you would come to the stage, the Zoom stage here. Hello. So would you tell us a little bit more about the film, and then talk to us about some of the decisions you made in different ways you wanted to do the cinematography. You were really a one-woman band on this, right? And you have incredible cinematography skills, and I would love to have you talk a little bit about that too. But first, tell us a little bit about this film and the decision-making process.
Yeah, thanks, Maggie, and just shout out to Asia for that awesome poster that she made. She works for the center. Yeah, so this film, it was the first of 3 proposed films about biosphere regions, and I worked with Cliff from the National Park Service, and the Mammoth Cave Biosphere region is a really special place because it's a very delicate ecosystem that's really connected through groundwater. It has Mammoth Cave National Park, which is home to the largest map cave system in the world at 400 miles long. And so when it rains, this like porous limestone ecosystem, the water drops down, and it's a very delicate ecosystem that's also prone to a lot of pollution concerns. And so Cliff and I really decided to root this film in water connectivity, and that guided us in who we interviewed. So we spoke with a farmer that's doing best practices. We spoke to a kayaker, a woman who does water quality testing, someone in the cave tourist industry. I might be forgetting one. But yeah, so it's really grounded in water. Yeah.
So in terms of the process of deciding what cinematic style you wanted, what aesthetic style you wanted, and the range of cinematography, could you talk about that? Because you really have just made that your passion. Probably was already your passion coming into the program, but you have really expanded your skill sets.
Thank you. Yeah, I knew I wanted to work on my interviewing and like the way that I was lighting the interviews. And it was a nice opportunity because Cliff was asking the interview questions. And so, Cliff and I worked together to decide who we wanted to interview and what questions we wanted to ask. But then he was the one actually asking the questions. So I could take that time to really set up the shot how I wanted, and had a little set of LED lights that I got from AU, which had batteries in them. And so I could set up all the interviews. They're mostly all outside, which was helpful with COVID. And then that helped with the lighting, just that little bit of LED light really brought them to life. And then I shot a lot of moments in 120 frames per second, which allows for that kind of slow motion you see. I feel like it just kind of brings it into a more beautiful state. I really like that slow motion look. And then I have a drone and I love drone footage. And because there was, this water and this connectivity theme, I really wanted to be able to get up over the Mammoth Cave Biosphere region area and be able to show the Green River flowing, and also be able to show a blue hole, which was probably one of my favorite moments of filming. I think it was our last day because you can't actually fly a drone in the park itself. And so we worked with some partners and got a tip about where we could hike to in order to get adjacent enough to a blue hole to get the drone over the blue hole. And so we were walking down there and it was sunny and everything was great. And then I put the drone up in the air. It was like my one chance to get this drone shot of this blue hole. And then it just starts pouring. And I almost lost the drone because it was like the sky got totally grayed out and I couldn't find the drone. But I got the drone back, and it was, through all that, it really was amazing because it was the film's about water, and then I was able to get this drone shot of it actually raining over the blue hole, and the drone survived. So
that's a true success story, but really what tenacity that takes to just go for that shot and continue to try to get what you envisioned, and then have that magic of something that comes out even better than you thought it was going to, which is amazing. I want to ask you, so you're working on the second of these two Biosphere videos now with Cliff at the National Park Service, and the second one, which Nick Tucker was also involved in helping shoot, it's really presented a lot of how do you, the challenges of how do you shoot in the pandemic. And I know this is a question for a lot of people, like, are you totally shut down? And well, no, few students have been able to really figure out over these last few months, well, last fall all the way into now, of how to find safe ways to film. So could you talk to us a little bit about that, your process and strategy for figuring out how to actually go out in the field during the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing, both in Kentucky and for the second film, which is on the Lake Champlain, the Champlain Adirondack Biosphere region, Cliff and I, and then Nick and I, we both got tested for COVID before we went. And then one thing, it was just like a very simple thing, but it really made a big difference, was having little like Clorox hand wipes. So anytime I passed someone a lavalier mic, it just made me feel a lot more comfortable. And I think the person I was interviewing a lot more comfortable, so that they could wipe off that little lavalier mic. And it just made the world of difference to be able to hand them this and then hand them the wipe. And it really gave me a lot more confidence. And then just besides that, we'd wear masks when as much as possible, we'd wear masks when we were interviewing. If it was kind of a formal sit-down interview, we were able to back the cameras up far enough and use kind of longer lenses. And then our interview subject wouldn't always wear a mask. But sometimes more of the informal things we were filming, there's a time where we were filming salmon, people doing salmon research, and they have masks on. And I feel like COVID, this pandemic's been going on for long enough and has become such a big part of our lives that I think films, people kind of understand in documentaries if your characters have masks on. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're going to see all these films that have people wearing masks, and it's just going to be, that's the reality of this time period. And bravo to you and to Cliff and to Nick to get out there and film safely. And I think you ended up stopping filming around September last year because you knew that the pandemic was going to get worse, and that was kind of the cutoff. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, well, so we were originally supposed to go to Vermont to film the second film around August, but the pandemic, I think, was spiking then. And so we held off. And then, yeah, it was just really a matter of like staying really flexible and kind of a go, no-go situation. And then in the second week of October is when we filmed the second film in Vermont. And we just kind of had a slight window. And the same thing happened with the Kentucky film, as we just really kept our eye on the numbers and what was going on. And so, yeah, I feel really lucky that we were even able to film anything.
Yeah. Well, you know, true to documentary, you have to be flexible, right? It doesn't work to just script it all out and do, you know, because that's just not the way documentary works. But that's part of the serendipity, the spontaneity of it, that being able to think on your feet and figure out creative solutions. And it's very energizing. It's why we love documentaries. So bravo to you and to Cliff for an outstanding film. And I congratulate you, and I can't wait to see the final one of this next one on Lake Champlain. And yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I'll stay tuned for the second one. So thank you.
Great. Okay, we're going to move on to our fourth film, which is After the Storm, Pollution in the Potomac. Now, this is part of a class. It's created in our course. It's called Producing Wildlife and Environmental Films for Public Television, which we offer every year to both graduate and undergraduate students. It's produced in conjunction with the Maryland Public Television, and typically it airs in April during Chesapeake Bay Week. Because of the pandemic, this particular program aired last fall, and everything was a little bit topsy-turvy, but I think we're getting back on schedule now. The film, the class was taught this year by the award-winning filmmaker John Paulson, and the film won a Silver Telly Award. I'm so proud of that. These films are done as a class with, as I said, outstanding filmmaker John Paulson teaching this particular class, and it ended up all coming together. It's a challenging course to do a 30-minute broadcast film in a semester time frame. It takes a lot of commitment by everybody, and usually a little bit more work after the semester ends. So I want to welcome the team who's here that worked on this film. Hyatt, Marissa, Jessica, Kathleen, Nick, turn your cameras on, please, and join us on this virtual Zoom stage here. Do we have everybody? Oh, let me change my view so I can see everybody. There we go. Welcome. So I just can't believe all of you are here. It's just so good to see you. So I would like to start, I want all of you to have a chance to say something about your participation in the film. The producers, how did this come together? What was the challenge of trying to do a film for broadcast in just a semester's time frame? Hyatt, do you want to start on this?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. A semester is really a crunch time to get a whole half an hour done, ready for TV. And TV, working with Maryland Public Television, they have different standards and what stories they like. And that was a big learning curve for me, was because I usually work with online and then also like social media. And so working for actual MPT, and actually I work with National Geographic as well, and that's actually way different than working with MPT, and learning what they like and what those viewers are looking for was a big thing. And wrangling a lot of different crews going out. We had a lot of crews going out in different places, different times. And then also we had to jump whenever it rained. So we had people jumping and filming the overflow of the water whenever it rained. And so getting all of that together, and then also managing getting all the different file types and all the different cameras into the post-production workflow was really interesting. And then organizing all of the different stories we had and all of the different interviews we had into one clean story to fit in 30 minutes, because we went way over time to start with, which is great. I mean, that's what you want. You want to have a huge story, and that's what we got. but to squeeze it all and to get really concise with it, and it really brought a really exciting film, and I'm really proud of what we made together.
That's great. I really honestly don't know how you managed to pull it all together in a semester.
It was because everybody really pulled their weight. Everybody
Yeah.
really pulled their weight, and we have really talented people in that class.
That's great. Kathleen, we have not had a chance to hear from you, and I want to say congratulations because you're the one student in this group who's graduated. And so congrats on that. So talk about the role you had in this film, and how this particular project really helped build your skills at the end during your last of your program here.
Sure. So I served as a producer along with Beth, Jessica, and Hyatt. There was certainly a lot of moving parts. As Hyatt mentioned, we had a ton of crews going out. There were, I mean, if you've seen the film, several storylines that we were following. And I think also something that struck me as a producer was the sense of urgency. This is a big issue for all of us as residents of DC. And it's an issue that I don't think any of us were kind of well versed in, which is concerning because we're all outdoors a lot, and it's not the most well-known issue around DC water quality. So it was at the same time kind of concerning as a resident while extremely motivating as a filmmaker. And so that just even furthermore lit the fires under us to get this out. And I think that shows. I think everyone was really passionate about the project, and it was just a great learning experience for all of us.
That's fantastic. Marissa, what was your role on the film? I know you're really into graphics, and that was part of what you were doing. But why don't you share with us a little bit more broadly what your role was in the film, and how this project really differed from some of the other film projects you've worked on?
Well, I think one of the things that was special about this project is that we all wore different hats at different times, and ended up doing some roles we may have never done before and hadn't expected to do. So I did some camera work for the film. I also was our motion graphics lead. So we thought about what things would be difficult to explain or that couldn't be filmed, or and we came up with graphics for them. And I worked with a few other students. Abby is a really great undergraduate student who put together some really cool graphics for the film as well. So you'll see her work in there. And so this is the first time that I've had a motion graphics project that was so involved. And it was really challenging in a good way to get feedback and do revisions and learn how to go through the process, and also how to work with other people like who are on the editing team and who are adding footage to the film, and it needs to be 15 seconds. No, 7 seconds would be better.
And that's true with motion graphics. You really are talking about just that difference of seconds, but what a difference that can make, because you have a specific locked time that you have to, pull this all together. It can't be, more or less 5 minutes here. And who cares if it's, a little extra seven, you have the broadcast half hour, and that has to fit that. So every second, every minute, every second counts.
Right.
You're currently working on the National Park Science History fellowship with Tim, and that's pretty graphically intense. So how did this particular class and project help inform what you're doing now?
Well, I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to practice and build my skill set, because it kind of showed me also some things that I should go learn, introduced me to some points of things that I could learn, so that I felt even more comfortable going into this Park Service project. As you know, we are doing this project totally virtually, like some of the other folks who are doing fellowships with the Park Service. So we are creating our own assets as well as working with some historical photos. And we only have a very small couple of video clips to work with. So a lot of what we have to work with is still photos, and we're looking for interesting ways to bring life and movement to those photos so it doesn't feel like we're watching a PowerPoint presentation, and motion graphics. And the practice I got with this class was really helpful, making me feel confident in the project I'm doing with the Park Service now.
Well, that's great. And I know Tim Watkins always appreciates the good work that our students bring into the fellowships. And I can't wait to see the next cut. Really looking forward to it. Jessica, we haven't heard from you yet. And I know you had a pretty key role in not just the production part of the film, but the marketing and publicity part of the film as well. Would love for you to speak about both what you did and how you kind of started maybe thinking through how is this going to come together in terms of the concept and getting the concept out there on the marketing front.
Yeah, so I, as others mentioned, I worked as a producer, and then one of my main roles was working as a writer. So, you know, with the other producers initially, we came up with an outline, and then I really worked on the treatment and then like the script with Beth, and then worked very closely with Hyatt and others to like, you know, go and get it from the scripts to the edit. There was a lot of back and forth. So I feel like that whole process of just refining the story and working with all the material helped to then think about how to get it into film festivals and how to market it. But it was definitely like, you know, there was so much content that in the writing process, we were just really trying to hone in on the story and figure out what was necessary and what wasn't. And
So did you punt it back and forth, you and Beth, like, okay, I'll do this edit, and no, you do that edit on the script?
Yeah, we did that a lot. And then there were certain times where it was like crunch time where I had to get some things so that then we could get it to Hyatt to start the edit. And so it was a lot of, you know, these intense times of just pushing it along and pushing it along. And Paulson was involved in all of it as well to keep it moving. And, you know, we were continuing to film as well. So it was just a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
But I'm proud. And as others have mentioned, everybody on the team worked incredibly hard and helped each other out.
Which can make all the difference, right? All the difference.
Yeah.
Nick, I know there were some challenges on the filming side. Can you describe like the most challenging filming moment you had in this project?
So the biggest challenge of footage to get was definitely getting a CSO outflow with like a crazy amount of flow, because that only happens when it's really raining hard. So then of course there's some problems there getting cameras out and crews out in extreme rain. But Grace was in charge of that, and I'll let her speak to that. But my most difficult moment was we had our big interview with Dean, one of the Potomac River keepers, and we were going out on a boat filming, and I was the filming with the shoulder cam, and I got the flu really bad just before, which is funny to say during COVID times. I almost didn't share that because now it's like so uncouth to go anywhere when you're showing symptoms, but it was okay then. But no, it wasn't really okay. It was extremely difficult to film, do 3 hours of filming on a boat on the Potomac while I had a 100-degree fever, but and had water splashing in my face and the wind, but it was cool. I was with my friends. Grace and Beth were there, so that made it all good. Yeah,
maybe not recommended to do that with a fever.
Don't do that anymore. Anybody in the audience, if you're—
There's the learning curve. Do not go and film, particularly on a boat, but really anytime that you have a flu and 100-degree fever, just find somebody else to fill in for you. Not a good practice.
The world's different now from the time.
Well, that's right. We are with this pandemic. It definitely is a lot more cautious about that. But I know a lot of the different cinematography work you do, the fellowship you did with the Nature Conservancy, for instance. You know, you're always out there trying to push the limits. You did great drone work in that. You've been in swamps. You've been with Hyatt's film in the Bahamas, doing underwater stuff. I mean, all of you are just an amazing, amazing team of students who found ways to learn from each other and nudge each other and try new things. Grace, because I haven't heard from you on this film. So what about those outflows in the pouring rain?
Yeah, so they were just kind of hard to get to. There's like 30 outfalls in Rock Creek alone, and then there's all these in the Potomac, but then it becomes fewer and fewer really fast when you try to find ones. We were like looking at maps, trying to figure out like which ones would be visible for filming, like from across the river, like through bushes, like, and then it became even fewer again when we were trying to find ones we could park by and see. And then we had to like run out there while it was pouring rain. So I kind of found myself in this position of like driving out to this location I'd like previously found, like hoping to see sewage falling out of a pipe, like, you know, something I never thought I'd be doing in DC.
Right.
But so yeah, we got it though. We eventually got it.
That's great. Yeah, that's not something you'd say, hey, yeah, wow, I got the sewage.
Yeah, it's a fun weekend activity.
Yeah, wow. You know, Kathleen, I just want to come back to you for a moment before we open this up to Q&A from the students, because you went on to work on a fellowship with NASA, and, you know, just extraordinary. That's such a competitive fellowship. And, you know, again, how did this class and other classes you took in the program, how did that really help prepare you for the fellowship at NASA?
Well, I'm still there, which is
yay.
I'll be there for a whole year come this summer. I think, especially for this film, because I mean, covering 30 minutes, it doesn't really hit you how difficult that is until you have to do it, at least in my experience. And so it just kind of was a great exercise in resourcefulness and collaboration and teamwork. And we had to cover so much time with archival footage and you know, accurate historical information. So that kind of, you know, led us right into COVID times where we're using a lot of third-party footage and things like that. And so it was just a great framework of getting our confidence up and knowing how to find what we're looking for and how to best conduct interviews and tricky situations. And I mean, everything that you think could come out of a film that does when you have to be really flexible. And yeah, it was great. And learning with these guys, I mean, it's just the best team, as tacky as that is. And Professor Paulson was really helpful along the way as well.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on this film and the others. Leah, if you want to turn your camera on, and we'll go for some questions from the audience. And Matt, can you help feed those questions?
Yes, I don't see any at the moment.
Okay, so I'm going to keep going here. We'll see if that works. What I'd like to do is, because I think all of you have had a variety of experiences, let's go around and just share, if you would, you know, what you're working on now, and maybe briefly what your next project is. So Hyatt, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm working on actually a bunch of stuff. So right now, my current project, while I work at National Geographic, I work on the show The Incredible Dr. Pol, and there I do AE work, assistant editor work, and I also edit interstitials for the comps show. So I do that, and then I also work on this show that I'm gonna pitch, and it's on social media, called Wild Wild World, where I take everybody out, all of you, the audience, or be my friend going to the South, where I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I take everybody to the South. The first season that I have, which is 4 episodes, is shot in South Carolina. And in South Carolina, I take you to everything that I know really, really well. And I want to show people the South as I know it and how I saw it and how I experienced it. And we generally have a ton of fun and really get out there in nature and make sure that everybody can get out there and really enjoy what the South has to offer. And then after that, I'm going to be finishing the edit of Bahamian Queen, because that had to be put onto sort of cinder blocks for a little bit because of, first of all, the hurricane that happened there, and then with COVID. But now that things are slowing down, and actually now that I have a lot of experience from National Geographic, from working on Wild Wild World, I feel like Bahamian Queen will have a really, really, really good product. And I'm trying to get that done by this summer.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah, I'm really excited about all of it.
Yeah. So put in the chat, if you would, your new series, so that
Okay,
people
yeah,
know
I'll
where to
put that.
find
You
it.
can watch it. It's called Wild Wild World. It's on my Instagram, which is at Wild Girl of the Woods. And it's also on YouTube and Facebook under the same title. And I'll be having another episode coming out hopefully by Thursday. And they're only like 4 minutes, so you can watch them just like on your phone, you know, whenever, as you're on the train, or if you're taking the train anymore, I don't know, but like as you're on a walk, anything they're just little fun bits about the South and how much I love it and how much I love the birds, especially there. So there's a lot of fun stuff.
Great. Yeah. So share that in the chat. So we're getting some questions here. So I'm going to ask, not only just talk a little bit about your plans for the future, what you're working on now, what you're working on next, but one piece of advice for somebody who's interested in coming into the MFA, MA, or MFA program here. So Jessica, why don't you go next?
So what I'm working on is I'm working on my capstone, which is the thesis film. And I'm pursuing a story about the Gullah Geechee, who are descendants of West Africans along the Southeast coast, and their connection to land issues down here, and telling the story through trees and how trees relate to their connection to the land and the community. And I'm also trying to get 2 narrative shorts filmed, but with everything with COVID, it's taken, you know, more time and more flexibility. So I'm hoping to get vaccinated in the next couple of weeks and then continue with my thesis. And did you want me to answer the second question, or? Actually,
let's do a quick round robin at the end. So let me come around and then we'll come back really quickly and have everybody have a short piece of advice. Marissa, how about you?
Well, what I'm working on now is what I hope will be the first episode in a series of animated explainer videos that are geared towards grade school children, like middle school age children. And those are all going to be about environmental topics. So they're going to be fully animated, and I have a couple of ideas for future episodes. This episode is going to be, well, this episode that I'm doing for my thesis project is going to be about a science experiment that happened from 2000 to 2010 that was really exciting, and it was in the news for a while back when it was going on, but a lot of people, including myself, may not have heard of it, and I think would get a kick out of learning about this experiment and about how scientists go about answering really big questions. So that's what I'm working on at the moment.
Very cool. Yeah, congratulations. Nick, let's go to you next.
Hi, I'm working on my thesis film as well. It's about deer management, whitetail deer management in my home state of Virginia. Specifically, it's kind of around Northern Virginia because they have a specific, I guess we have a specific deer problem, too many deer. And it's going to be a little bit about, I guess it's 3 parts: why deer are managed, how deer are managed, and who cares about deer management. If you're from the DMV, you probably have a lot of opinions about deer, and if you're not, you will be informed. And what am I working on in the future? I'm working on a very long-term documentary called Trout Fishing in Virginia, where I'm going to interview hopefully hundreds of trout fisher people and make like a very non-conventional kind of experimental interview-based documentary about trout fishing in Virginia and like the cult of trout fishing. So, and Grace's film, The Waters That Heal Us, actually like introduced me to trout fishing, and I had never tried it. And then it looked so much fun that I got into it, and now I'm making a film about it.
So follow your passion. I'm hearing that. Okay, I look forward to seeing both of those. Leah, why don't you go next?
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm in the pre-production stages of my capstone thesis documentary, which I'm super excited about. It's going to be 15-20 minute kind of natural history style conservation film about a threatened species of shorebird in Florida called black skimmers, and they nest hopefully I'm going to be filming this colony that nests on St. Pete Beach in front of these big beach hotels. And I would like to film it. I'm going to do most of the filming. So I'd like to film it from the perspective of a chick as it's growing up. And I'm actually going to film its entire nesting season. So May through August. And this, I went to undergrad in Florida. And so this was a species that I had done research with in my undergrad. I have a background in environmental biology and have some connections there. And so it's super helpful, I think, for myself as an environmental filmmaker and wildlife filmmaker to have that background in biology and environmental sciences to kind of help me navigate the science field and what I want to make films in, and also have those connections. And so hopefully that film will be done. I'll finish filming in the summer and then have it all done in May 2022.
Excellent. Yeah. And that science background, really, there's so many opportunities to do excellent science-based films, and we need more. So that's great. I'm really excited for that project going forward. Kathleen, okay, you're still at NASA. What's going on at NASA?
Yeah, so we do, the team that I specifically work for is the Earth Science News team at Goddard Space Flight Center just over in Maryland. And so I work on kind of explainer style, general public videos on an array of topics on emerging Earth science data. Currently, I'm working on a video about internal tides and how that it impacts climate and how it absorbs a lot of the warming in the atmosphere. And I too am working on my thesis. Just refuse to change my topics during COVID. So now that everyone is starting to get vaccinated, hopefully that ball will get rolling real soon.
Excellent. Grace, fill us in on your amazing film on Lake Erie.
Yeah, so also my thesis project is what I'm doing right now. There's an alumni of our program who has a production company in Michigan called Great Lakes Outreach Media. And that's also where I'm from. So we got connected, and yeah, I've spent this whole COVID quarantine time editing his film that he shot in like 2019. And it's all about the toxic algae blooms that happen on Lake Erie every summer, specifically near the Toledo area, and like what causes the blooms, how it affects the people that live near them. So that's what I'm up to.
Yeah. Big undertaking, yeah. And you've already come a long way. I can't wait to see the finished film. And
Thank you.
I know it's going to have an impact. These algae blooms are happening really in so many different places now,
Mhm.
Florida and California and Great Lakes, and we're going to see an increase as global warming continues. So super important film. Beth, hey. What are you working on now? What's your next step?
So just like everyone else, I'm working on my thesis. My thesis project is about the bark beetle epidemic out west, specifically Colorado, where I'm from. And I had the chance to go and film in October, and Nick was my DP. He did a great job shooting. But growing up in Colorado, I've always been really interested in the bark beetle problem. And when you're driving down the highways, you see these hillsides of dead trees. And I grew up thinking, oh my God, this is such a horrible epidemic, such a horrible problem. But then through some research, I've met a lot of scientists who are studying kind of the unforeseen positive side effects of the bark beetle, as well as I've met a couple folks who work in sawmills, and they're kind of leaning into the issue and using this bark beetle wood to make wood products that are specifically, there's a market for them because the beetle carries this fungus on its back, and when it's killing the tree, it's actually killing the tree because this fungus is spreading through the tree, and it's this kind of grayish blue, so it gives the wood this really pretty kind of blue stain. So there's a market for that. And so it's been really interesting getting that new perspective on this thing that's been like a lifelong back of my mind stress when I'm driving through the mountains, seeing these hillsides of dead trees. So
Yeah,
it's been really
yeah.
cool.
And it's important because it takes us into, something beyond just the surface. And again, with an emphasis on how important the sciences and really using science to help inform and educate. So yeah, so bravo, that's great. Okay, we're going to do one last round robin. We only have just a very few minutes left. So advice to emerging filmmakers, advice to anybody interested in doing the film and media arts, wildlife and environmental producing programs here. What's the, just keep it short, but really, what's your pithy kind of top priority advice? Hyatt, take it away.
Oh, I'm already unmuted. Okay, I thought I was muted. My biggest piece of advice is sign up for the MFA, obviously. I really had a great experience with it, and I'm having a great experience with it. Also, my second biggest piece of advice is make the film. Even if you don't know these special cameras or you don't know this special program, special software, going and making that film will give you so much more confidence in making future films. And even if it's just 2 minutes, shoot it on your iPhone. Shoot as much as you can and start now. Start making your films now, because there's so many stories to be told in the world right under your nose. Go and film it.
Excellent. Jessica.
I agree, definitely sign up for the program. I think also if you do become a student, take this class that we took, the Environmental Filmmaking for Public TV, because it was such a great course. Partner with your cohort, partner with people and help each other out. Shoot as much as you can, and also find stories that you're passionate about and think of why you're the person to tell it and why you feel compelled to tell it.
Great advice. Wow. Okay, Marissa, this is going to get harder and harder as we go through each of you.
My advice would be to read a lot about environmental issues and pick up those magazines and find out what's going on in the world. And because one of the hardest things to do is when you're like, okay, I'm ready to make a new project, is trying to come up with an idea. And I think just, staying up to date on what's going on in the world of environmental science is really helpful and will make you a real asset to your team as well.
Absolutely. Great advice. Nick.
Going off of what Marissa said, yeah, self-educate. If you want to make environmental films, go learn a little bit of ecology. It really helps out. Even if you don't want to learn like the whole grand scheme, just learn like a couple species in your area. It's super fun. And like, honestly, the more animals you know and the more you know what's going on environmentally, the more films ideas that you'll get to make. Like, I love animal stuff, and because I reach out to people about animal stuff, like people reach out to me about new animal projects. So it's cool. Just like self-education, lifelong game. Grad school can only get you so far. You got to do a bunch for yourself. That would be my advice.
Good advice. Yeah. Leah.
Yeah, I guess I'd say just kind of try and find the balance between finding what you're passionate about and like focusing on that, but also staying open to, other aspects of things. Like for me, I came into the MFA program with like a real focus of natural history cinematographer, and that is what I'm shooting my thesis on. But at the same time, I also get to work on all of these fiction projects and have been able to be the director of photography for a bunch of these fiction shorts of other students in the program. And so that's been a really fun balance of like staying focused on what I love, but also staying open to working on a bunch of different types of projects.
Yeah, excellent advice. And we do partner with the fiction, and we have the game lab in immersive, interactive. So there's a lot of ways to explore and expand your skills. And if you're open-minded to it, that's great advice. Okay, Kathleen.
My advice would echo everyone else's, and to not be afraid and just go for it. And also be persistent. I find that most of the opportunities I've gotten in life have been because I'm super annoying and will always be around, and just keep going.
I love it. Persistence. And you're not annoying. Come on, it's persistence. Grace.
I would say probably just like simply just be good to work with and be nice to the people on your team and pull your weight, you know, but also like, don't be afraid to kind of like follow your niche. Cause I think one of the cool things about coming to this program is I kind of thought like, oh, environmental film, like a lot of the people in this program will all have kind of the same like direction as far as what kind of films we're trying to make, but that's not the case at all. Like everyone has their own kind of thing that they're following, their own style of filmmaking and their own like niche within what they like to do in filmmaking too. So
excellent, excellent advice. Okay, Beth, you get to wrap it up here.
So yeah, I'd like to say that you don't have to be an expert in something that you want to make a film on, but you do have to be curious about it, because you're going to become an expert by talking to a bunch of people and figuring out what the film is all about, and you're kind of figuring out which pathways to take with it. And that's been a really fun thing to figure out, is making a film is like doing a giant research project and then putting it together to be visually pleasing so that other people can watch your research project and learn from it. And I think that's really fun.
That's great. Great advice, everybody. Really great advice. And I want to say congratulations to all of you for these award-winning films. I'm so proud of you personally, and really, you just do such amazing work, and you do work so beautifully together, and that is absolutely key to being successful in this field. And I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight for this program, and the Environmental Film Festival in the nation's capital, and of course, Matt, who's getting this all done behind the scenes. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I really appreciate your joining us tonight.